Hello. Hi. Hey. So, in case you guys didn't know, I'm also a VTuber. Some people find that kind of cringe. But, I decided a long time ago that I also wanted to stream. What? Sorry, it's just some quirks of the Lofi I put. Yeah. What is this? Why is it so full of ads? Oh my god, I'm gonna put another one. Fuck that. Yeah, this is good. Coucou les Québec. Salut tout le monde. J'espère que ça va bien, j'espère que vous avez bien aimé la série quoi. Okay. So, the purpose of this stream is to well, first of all, tell you guys that I do have like a streaming channel where I also do streams. And yeah, since the videos take a very long time to produce, I decided to create something that you could find, where you could find me faster. And I make streams. And it's basically that, and I also wanted to answer your questions, if you have like any questions. Ça va, merci pour la super vidéo. Ah ok. Bon, ça m'a fait plaisir que tu as bien aimé. Cette série a été vraiment longue de mettre ensemble, mais c'est finalement fait. Le travail a commencé en vrai à l'année 2020. Si on pense formellement à la commence de la recherche, pour moi, c'était un truc que j'ai commencé à faire à la pandémie, quoi. Et maintenant, c'est fini. Alors, je suis libre de faire des autres choses avec la chaîne et je suis bien heureuse de finalement le faire. So, what I said, for those who don't speak French, this is going to be like one of those Canadian government meetings, right? Because I'm going to have to say, okay, this is in French, then this is in English for like the French and the English speakers. Yeah, so what I said is that yes, I'm very happy the Quebec series is over. It's a piece of work that I started in the pandemic in 2020, if we consider when the research started. The first video was published in 2021, but the research actually began in the September of 2020. And yeah, it's been a lot of work, and it's been a very long time since we started, and I'm very happy that it's over. At the moment, this is the longest Ball and Ball documentary series on YouTube, I think, because the longest used to be Crowds, I think, the Mexico series, yeah, because the series on the Mexican-American border is 4 hours and 14 minutes, and this one is 5 hours, like 5 hours and 20 seconds. So yeah, it was like quite a big project for quite a small channel. I'm happy that I proved that, a small channel can do something this big, and I think it can be inspiring maybe for other creators who want to maybe do this. So yeah. But I will tell you, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. I wouldn't do this again if I hadn't more things under my belt. Speaking of resources, you know I'm fond of sea shanty, so these songs for you. Pay me my money soon. Please subscribe to the Patreon so Wonderstroy can get paid for all her amazing work. She's going to get paid regardless because, you know, YouTube ad money usually clocks in on the 10th. And then there's another, you know, it pays on the 20th, but it clocks in on the 10th. But at least for now, there's going to be, these challenges. So, I mean, if you guys have any questions on the history of Quebec, any things you would like to ask, this is like the moment. You have my attention. It's a privilege for all of you who decide to attend and maybe follow the streaming channel. And you know, if you're interested in like me or in the series, this is like the moment to ask things. I see a question, which is thoughts on Jack Layton and his brief Quebec breakthrough in 2011. If I'm honest, I don't think I know enough about Layton to give you like a very informed opinion. I think he was the kind of politician that could have done a very good job if it wasn't for the fact that he died, unfortunately. And that was very sad. Because he seemed like a guy who had good intentions and a guy who could have become prime minister if things had gone better, but unfortunately they didn't. And it's complicated. I guess it goes to show that human beings... Oh, sorry. I tapped the microphone. Yeah, human beings like to believe that we are in control of things, right? Like we are in control of the world around us and that we have a lot of power to influence it. And we do. Like, don't get me wrong, we do. But there is a great degree to which things like disease, the environment, the circumstances of our lives can also play more of a role than we perhaps like. And Jack Layton was unfortunately one of those situations where, someone who could have been a great contributor to Canadian politics had his life cut short. And we'll never really know what he could have done, but he was in line with the NDP, which is one of the Democratic Socialist parties in Canada, and not NDP, Québec Solidaire, but they're like in collaboration. Ça va? Qu'on fait ici? Ici, on fait des questions de la série du Québec, alors si toi t'es arrivé peut-être de voir la vidéo, quoi. On va parler un peu des questions, des choses de lesquelles vous aimeriez peut-être visiter, des questions, de mes opinions, des questions de moi-même. C'est ce que tu veux, quoi. On peut penser que c'est un peu en fait. Tu sais, on a fait le petit moment de se rencontrer après de la conférence, quoi. Alors imagine que là, il y a de petits cafés, que là, il y a de petits biscuits, des trucs à manger, quoi. D'après un meeting universitaire, quoi. Yeah, so basically what I just repeated what we're doing here in terms of the Q&A, the dynamic. More Maison Eggroll lore. I could talk about that for hours. Okay. So, Pierre Trudeau really liked a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant in Montreal called La Maison Eggroll. And it's like a restaurant that serves Chinese food, but it's like street Chinese food. It's not like specialty Chinese food, and he really enjoyed it, and went there quite often, and he hung out there quite often as well. And there were a few times where Canadian journalists wanted to know Pierre Trudeau's opinion on politics after he retired. And what they would do was to basically go harass him at the restaurant he enjoyed. So yeah, he went there. The journalists went there. And the restaurant, he enjoyed it. But if you research it today, you'll see that it's quite unpopular, and that a lot of people dislike that the owner is rude. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this because the owner is still alive. It kind of goes away from the purpose of discussing history. But yeah, like if you look Maison Aigrol, Montreal, you'll see that the reviews are terrible. A lot of people are complaining about the phone, the attention they get. Like they don't like it at all. But Trudeau really liked it, and I used to be like really estranged by that fact because I was curious, like, why does he like it so much? And right now it's considered like a bad restaurant. And turns out that the owner is different. So the real owners of La Maison École that used to exist in Quebec moved out of Montreal, and now they're based in a different city. And the current owner is like a different person that named the restaurant the same way, and it's based on a different location. So if you look on Google Maps, which I did, the address of like the original Maison École, you'll find that it's still there. It's still there, but now it's like an empty building, and the modern one is just kind of gone. Yeah. Yeah. So now the current owners are different people. But if you are a subscriber of Uncle Roger, as I am, you will know that when a Chinese owner is rude at the restaurant, that probably means you'll get a very good food experience. So yeah, I've heard complaints about the food, but they're Canadians. They probably have like different taste sensitivities than me. I'm not Canadian, by the way. I'm not Quebecois either. I'm Mexican, but I was born in Paris, and yeah, it's like a strange thing to happen. I guess I could talk about it, but in a few words, it you wouldn't get. I have a very unique profile. I'm not connected to Quebec. I've never been to Quebec. I just read a book, and then I read another book, and then I read another book, and then I could make the series. Wasn't there supposed to be a sponsored segment, by the way? We were searching for it, but unfortunately, no one was available. I think it's the season in part. This is a bit of a tip for all of you who want to become YouTubers. The very good season for people to post videos or to search for sponsors is the Christmas season and the beginning of summer, because these are the seasons where people are just kind of headhunting for shopping, for offers, for discounts. And sometimes posting in September is not like ideal, especially if there are no like holidays people can take advantage of to make sponsors. And yeah, I guess we were just kind of seeing that if we continued headhunting, it could probably take another month to publish, and I didn't want that. So I just decided to publish as early as I could, because there's advantages and disadvantages to publishing at given times. And yeah, there's a lot of details about how the sausage is made. That is not just the video is done, we post the video. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on Hydro-Quebec's First Nations frosty relations? No pun intended. Well, in reality, I think Hydro-Quebec is like a thing that we have to. Canadians are really proud of it because it's kind of like the staple jewel of the Parti Québécois. It's also a thing that guarantees they have the cheapest electricity in Canada. But, there have been many disasters, natural disasters, caused by irresponsible infrastructure construction in Canada and Quebec. It's not only a Quebec problem. I think in Saskatchewan, they also have tried to make dams that proceeded to flood indigenous communities later. And a lot of indigenous people are like reasonably skeptic that in their territories, electricity infrastructure is built. So it's a difficult situation where a lot of people have very different interests. But I will tell you that in the past, right, a lot of people have managed to negotiate settlements of financial compensation where the First Nations get like money and assistance in exchange for basically renting territory for Canadians to develop. So that is very good. That is very positive, and ultimately that's how I'd like things to continue developing through negotiated settlement. Right now we live in an era where indigenous issues are a lot more present. First Nations issues, I should say. That's how First Nations prefer to be called in Canada, maybe not in the United States, but in Canada. And in the spirit of that, I should say that negotiations is the way to go. And I hope Quebec can continue doing that in like an effective way. So yeah. New piece of lore, yeah. Hey, just finished watching. Hey, salut Yvan. Ça me fait beaucoup de plaisir de te voir ici. Toi, t'es un des personnes qui a été ici au soutien du projet presque du début, de premier jour, quoi. Et moi, je fais une appréciation très grande de t'avoir ici à la fin. Et merci pour tout. Merci pour tout, toutes ces années. Je comprends qu'il y a beaucoup de personnes qui étaient dans les Patreon, quoi, et aujourd'hui, ils ne sont pas là. Mais bon. Soon, I demand a 5-part series on New Brunswick. Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Yeah. Quebec is over. Now let's do Newfie history. Let's go. Thank you for the donation. This is so nice of you. Yeah. Who knows? I might revisit Canada because it's something that I'm already familiar with, and it's very worthwhile to just kind of work of what you know. Because let me tell you another thing about YouTube. The best thing you can do to make sustainable videos on YouTube is to create things that you can sustainably make as regularly as you can. And if you already have like a type of knowledge or a type of subject, then yeah, it's probably smart to do that. Anyway, thank you, Sweeney. I'll write you as soon as the stream ends because I have to update you on these things we're working on together. Yeah. Okay, next question. How much do you know about cooperatives in like Desjardins and the role in Québécois development? Not enough. But I know I've read about them in one of the books I cited on the references. If you want to read it, it's Quebec, Tradition and Modernity. It's the illustrated history by J.I. Little and Peter Gossange. So yeah, check that one out. I'm sure if that's something that interests you, you will really enjoy that book. It is a book that goes very deep into the economics. Like I said this in the bibliography, but I'll say this again. If you are a materialist, a Hegelian, a Marxist, for example, you'll really enjoy that book because it goes like really deep into the the economic history of Quebec. A lot of what it does is economic history, even more than social history, and I enjoy that because it aligns with like many of my perspectives. But ultimately, this video series was about, it was a history of nationalism. So yeah, I had to focus on social history a lot more than economic history. I'm gonna go. Good night, everyone. Good night. Hey, I don't have time to watch the stream, but I just want to say that you're awesome. Thanks for your efforts for understanding our culture. Merci. Merci à toi. Merci à tous pour être ici et donner du soutien au projet, donner du soutien à la chaîne, faire tout pour me faire arriver ici, quoi, parce que c'était vraiment un effort collectif. Je veux dire que en une façon, c'est un peu mon effort de mettre tout ça ensemble. Mais j'ai eu un net de soutien vraiment divers, vraiment effectif et vraiment positif. Et moi, je dis toujours merci d'avoir ça. Je dis toujours merci d'avoir ça. Et c'est la communauté québécoise qui a été là pour moi presque toujours. Et bon, je vous dis merci. J'espère que vous avez bien aimé et que c'est là pour le futur. Et voilà. Je l'ai presque manqué. Je suis vraiment content d'avoir été là. Félicitations. Merci. Lol. Ouais. Maybe you could do a small video about some important figure. Maurice Richard, culturally important hockey player. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could do a video on the hockey riots. Maybe like an appendix. But, yeah. Yeah. I've seen the chat for anyone just finding out that Quebec speaks French. Yeah, I am just saying things in French and saying things in English because, that's what the Canadian politicians do. What I just answered in the last question was saying that, yeah, I understand that, a lot of people might feel the impulse of congratulating me, and I thank you for that, but really it was like a team effort. It was a team effort between everyone who is mentioned in the credits. It was a team effort among like everyone who supported me on Patreon, everyone who was there, and I thank you for that. Like it wasn't only me; it was like a whole team of people who made this possible in different ways and different degrees of directness, but they were all important. And yeah, I hope you're all happy with the end product. In the future, I'll create more things, so I hope you stay for what's next as well. Un excellent français, merci. Bon, moi je suis né à Paris alors. c'est ça. Wait, Quebec speaks French? Yeah. I need to go take care. I'm subscribed and I have the bell selected. Thank you. Okay, I should tell you guys that the way we're doing things in this channel going forward will be through video elections. So there will be a 2-tier system for votes and things like that, so that we can choose the next video and everyone is involved and everyone participates. So right now, let me put the vote. Oh, désolé, je ne savais pas pour Paris. Ne t'inquiète pas. Just let me find the thing. Okay, so if you want to vote on the next video, here is the public election. There will be a second round on Patreon to pick like the actual winner. But that's future. That's going forward. Let me pin. I'll add you as a moderators with me. Yeah, there we go. I hope the next 5 to 10 years in Quebec are interesting enough to be worth an update video. Oh, yeah. a lot of people have told me that one thing I could have discussed more, and I kind of agree, is how the Coalition Avenir Québec has a lot of parallels with Duplessism. And I agree, like, I have to say that I kind of see it, but it's too early to say. These people are still in government, and I do not want to, like, comment just yet. Because, it would be irresponsible as someone doing, like, the discipline of history to talk about these things, especially right now, that events are still developing. So, yeah, I think I will come back to Quebec, but maybe I'll come back to Canada even, but right now I feel like I've done my contribution and I would like to board other subjects in the future. Yeah. Qui penses-tu de mon post que... Ah, c'est quel? What post are you talking about? Do you think PSPP would have good chances of doing things right? Would there be a third referendum? Well, it's complicated. I think it could work. Ultimately, it depends a lot more on whether Quebec feels, continues to feel good in Canada. That's a big challenge. Because you could argue that morally, independence has a lot of merit. And independence has a lot of merit because historically, Quebec has good reasons to want to be something apart. I'll say that. I'll say that much. Like, independence is valid, it is a well argued movement, it's intellectually coherent, but people today live in a very different world than the one where independence was more of a pressing issue. And I think that's something that it's hard to negotiate, right? Because we need to make sure that changes align with the interests of the youngest people in the country. And, much like in Ukraine, for example, a big reason why young people wanted to join the European Union was because of the economic opportunities, right? Because of the Erasmus scholarships and things like that. And maybe there will be, Québécois youth that want to study at UOT, that maybe want to study outside of McGill or like L'Université Québec or the University of Alberta. Maybe they want to travel to British Columbia because it's like a nice place to go on vacation. And right now, I think the cost offset is leaning towards Quebec in Canada, precisely because the Québécois don't feel as oppressed. But as migration continues to Canada, I think Quebec will want to exercise more control over its own migration in order to keep its French texture. And there might be opportunities for independentists there because, Quebec's interests have to be synchronized with Canadian interests. And that's kind of what I said in the conclusion of the series. Like, we don't know if that's something that can be done just yet. So, like, I invite you to think about that. If you want to have independence, then it has to be argued for from a place of benefits. It has to be argued from a place of morality, of course, but also from a place of benefits. And in the case of... what's the name? Yeah, in the case of, like, morality, I think Quebec is, like, fully justified in wanting independence because, I hope that if anything comes out of the series is that you can, in fact, discuss the history of Quebec as that of historically oppressed people. Like, today it may not seem like it because there's been a lot of progress, but a lot of challenges remain and a lot of problems continue. So yeah. As someone from the Anglophone west coast of Canada, I find it interesting how much of Quebec's history we learned in school and how much we did not cover. Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing is that you can't really tell the history of Canada without the history of Quebec, and people in the West Coast probably can relate to that, because from your perspective, the history of Canada is told as the history of Ontario, really, right? Because it was Ontario leading like the migrations, and it was Ontario leading like the settlement and the investments, and then eventually the West started becoming rich, and but figures like Trudeau, for example, continue to treat the West as this uh, younger sibling in the relationship, in the Confederation. And Trudeau himself said that he felt competent enough to integrate Quebec, but that Western integration had to be the job of someone else. And, at the moment, I think that Western integration is still kind of like an open ended idea. Um, Precisely because the West, the Canadian West, uh, does not have as many benefits as it would like to have. And maybe in the future they'll find them. But yeah, I think to this point, at least today, Western exit plans are more organized than Quebec exit plans, largely based around the control of oil and the taxation of natural resources. So yeah. Souvent en anglais, Québec a besoin d'une nouvelle Revenge of the Cradle pour protéger leur culture, histoire, pays. Ah, okay. So this person says that whether Quebec has like need of a new Revenge of the Cradle, so a rise in fertility rates to protect culture, history, and country. I'm going to answer in French, and then I'm going to tell you guys what I think in English. Alors, ce que je pense est que le Québec est plus effectif que la France à gérer les questions de migration. Moi, je suis bien sûr que si la France avait les pourcentages des populations aux origines migratoires chez nous, le Rassemblement national ou un autre parti d'extrême droite aura déjà gagné les élections pour implémenter des mesures contre l'immigration, quoi. Et quelquefois, les gens parlent de cette idée de peut-être décourager la migration pour faire que les personnes peuvent avoir des enfants chez eux, et que la croissance populationnelle soit plus en question de la fordabilité, le coût de former une famille, et pas peut-être de cette idée de mettre les gens de l'extérieur à l'intérieur du pays et changer peut-être la texture. Mais ce que je veux dire un peu à la question de ça, c'est que dans un monde parfait, c'est ce que tu peux faire, et garantissez la liberté de mouvement de tous les gens. Alors si toi tu veux aller en vacances peut-être à la Chine, je pense que tu dois avoir le droit d'aller en vacances à la Chine et d'aller vivre ou aller visiter n'importe quelle partie du monde que tu veux. Et en même temps, c'est important que les gens aient une bonne opportunité de vivre, quoi. D'acheter les choses qu'il veut acheter, de couvrir ses besoins, et bon, c'est comme ça. C'est comme ça. Je pense que tu peux faire les deux choses. Je pense que on peut continuer à agrandir le Québec d'une façon qui a une utilisation productive de tous les endroits que tu as dans le XXe siècle. Et ce n'est pas une question de gérer la famille ou gérer l'immigration. On peut faire les deux choses. Et moi, j'aimerais qu'on fait les deux choses. Parce que la communauté migratoire et même la communauté native ont intérêt commun d'avoir des meilleurs standards de vivre, quoi. Et à ma vision, je pense que ces intérêts ne sont pas nécessairement en conflit. Et voilà. Okay, so what I said for the English speakers is that there's this debate, not only in Quebec but in the world overall, about whether we should privilege immigration or the growth of like domestic populations, right? And this is in the context of Quebec, like maybe should Quebec um, organize itself to have uh, more domestic growth as opposed to growth from migration, right? Because growth from migration for for a region that is so small, I was going to say country, but like not yet, not just yet. Um, uh, yeah, could be different, you know, especially if you're like a minority. What would you say, for example, if you were a Ukrainian and you saw your country suddenly being uh, immigrated by Russians, for example, or by another person when you're trying to do things like protect your language, protect your culture, things like that. And I understand the posture, but what I think is that in reality, both the migrants and the families that want a better cost of living have a lot of interests in common. And I don't think you have to choose between one and the other. I think that in reality, you can do both things because migrants and families have a lot of interests in common. They both want to live better, they both want to have better costs of living. I think that if you were, for example, in the current Canadian housing crisis, all you need is to build more houses, right? Right? Like, I don't want to get into the NIMBY debate because I think that NIMBYs are really silly, and my way of solving the NIMBY question is very Venezuelan, I will say. But you know, you could just build more houses. You are probably the second largest country on earth. You have the space for it. Uh, if you want to tackle questions of the cost of living, you know, both migrants and families want that. So I don't think it's necessary for you to favor migration instead of domestic growth. I think you can do both things. And in the 21st century, I think we might want to do both things. So yeah, that's the stance. Where are you from and why make a doc on Quebec history? I am from Mexico. I was born in Paris. Um, I'm friends with Kraut, and back when we started, I think I wanted to do a history series the way he does it. So, um, what I would say is that um, back then I thought, you know, the Americans need their series as well, and I wanted to do a history series of one of like the strange partners of the Americas. You know, the parts with unique history. And at the moment, I was questioning myself, like, does Quebec count as Latin America? And then I just started the video series, like, answering that question for myself. And I think that what I concluded is that yes, like, you can see it as a Latin American experience. It is also determined by the struggle against the English language, by the struggle to resist various forms of colonialism, to find independence, and to find political autonomy. But it is very unique because Quebec is an example of double colonization, like South Africa. Like, you know, you have a population that settled, and then it was settled by a different colonizer. So, in that sense, the history of Quebec was very unique, and I was very interested in it when I was thinking about what to solve. And yeah, I guess I found it interesting. I was deciding between Quebec and Brazil, and now I'm going to do one on Brazil. But once my Patreon grows. So yeah, basically that. Um, yeah. In the spirit of that, I want to say that, yeah, I guess I want to say that you don't need a big channel to do something like this. If you want to get to the level that I'm at, like I did have a lot of support, but you know, the work is the work, and everyone can do it. Like, I'm not a historian, I should say. I'm an applied mathematician finishing my undergrad. And yeah, like, you can do what you want as long as you put in the work. Yeah, Ontario and Quebec were often conflated as the older parts of Canada from the point of Western Canada. Yeah. The history is kind of not interesting compared to US Revolution, French Revolution, China Revolution, etc., etc. Why make it on Quebec for an English? I love what you made, but I'm curious. Ah, okay. Yeah, because even so, later on I got approached by a lot of Quebecois people who told me that they felt very ignored. Like Canadians in general don't understand them. And then, I got approached by a particular French Canadian on Twitter who told me that Vauche was saying like bad things about French Canadians after Quebec one was posted. And yeah, after I made that first episode, I just kind of realized that, it's a community that is very particular and very misunderstood. So starting from Quebec one onwards, it started to feel like I was doing something that was no longer for myself, right? It was for the world at large to have a resource. And I mean, it's probably very arrogant to say that, but I hope it contributes to more empathy among people. That's all I really want at this point. Because the series got so long, it started to like grow at a very slow pace. But ultimately, it's still a resource that I hope can promote understanding. And at this point, I hope that if you ever find like an English speaker that doesn't quite understand Quebec, they can look over here and maybe know what to inform their thoughts about. By the way, I really appreciated your work. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. I have strong doubts about whether Western Canadian independence, at least from where I currently reside in the capital of BC, just doesn't seem to have much widespread support in the capital yet. Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think it comes down to whether, people make mistakes. I think Canada right now is strong. If it continues in the path it was going in, like, the early 2000s, it's probably going to continue. People just need not to make mistakes because you already have a very well functioning society. Don't let the Americans interfere and just continue how we're doing. Brexit has always been an Alberta-driven movement. Interesting point about it being based more on self-interest and philosophical nationalism. Perhaps the people are just in a more materialist mode. Yeah, I think. See, the thing is that the 21st century changed things a lot, and now we kind of think of ourselves as humans, as citizens of the world, and the boundaries of countries are less important in a world where travel is more affordable, in a world where we all speak English because of the internet, in a world where, so many of us are so connected, right? So nationalism from like a materialist standpoint would be more costly. It would be like Brexit, right? It would be more costly than good, especially for younger people. And I guess younger people would oppose nationalism, independence, I should say. But the moral argument is there, right? And the moral argument will always be relevant. And if there's a point where the moral argument aligns with the material argument, the economic argument, then we'll see any of the parties of Quebec, like Québec Solidaire or le Parti Québécois or la Coalition Avenir Québec, or one of the, maybe not the Liberals, but any of these parties could lead a new independence initiative or ally together to form an independence front. The Liberals are a very small party compared to, the Quebec Liberals compared to the 20th century. So, Quebec regionalism is stronger than ever before. And the question is, will that translate into independence in the future as people's interests change? And that's up to you to decide, the Québécois, not me. I just documented things. So I wouldn't say. What do you know about equalization payment in Canada and how Albertans are bitter about it? Oh yeah, equalization is the thing about asymmetrical taxation. We have it in Mexico too. It happens in the United States as well, where the very rich provinces get taxed a lot, so the very poor provinces get some money, and there's some level of horizontal development. I think the Albertans are right to be upset about it because for a very long time they were very poor and they found an opportunity to make money, and now they feel like the federal government is impeding on that opportunity. And Western Canada is very independent, right? Like they have a very independent spirit. So, in that sense, I would say that there was a very deep conflict of interest when Trudeau did what he did to take the oil away from the Albertans. But even so, things could, it's like that in every country. Generally, the rich parts give money to the poor parts. Canada is more federal than most countries, so I understand the differences are there. But it's nothing unique. And in a more integrated country like Mexico, for example, you'd see that the North gives a lot of money to the South. In the United States, California and Texas give a lot of money to the Midwest. That typically happens in most of the world, where the federation taxes the federal government taxes the federation, and then the federal government distributes taxes according to needs and things like that. So from what I very Venezuelan, I love that. Yeah, I'm a democratic socialist, I should say. So I hope my bias comes through in my work, because I want you to question me. I want you to if you think I'm convincing, I appreciate that. But I think you should never look at like an online figure like a YouTuber and take them at face value. The more you question them and the more you take our videos as a starting point to learn more, I think that will be good. From my perspective, YouTubers are in the business of edutainment, so it's entertainment and education. But YouTube videos will never be a substitute for like deep education. So the best I can do is provide you like things that motivate you to learn more, but I should never be like the final authority on anything, because I am very biased and I can't aspire to be unbiased because I don't have formal training as a historian, and I will do my best to be as biased as I can. No. But to make that clear, right? To make clear that I don't want you to listen to what I say as facts. So yeah. Just please read more sources than YouTubers if you want to have like a holistic understanding of the world. I'm an urban planner. Oh, nice, studying to be one. Check out Adam Something's channel. You'll like it very much. I will drop it in the description once I get through the questions. Awesome, we could use more urban planners. Yeah. Yeah, in Canada, yeah. Well, thank you for your answer. Yeah, nice. Once my Patreon grows, say no more. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I am going to make a video describing my plans for the Brazil series and for the next videos. So I hope you guys like the future of the channel once this big series is over. So yeah. You're a mathematician, that's pretty cool. Yes, I'm an applied mathematician. I'm getting my degree very soon. Je dois partir, merci pour votre réponse. Je suis en franco-albertain et mon famille, parents, grands-parents est de Québec. Ah, ça c'est trop cool! Ah, merci d'être ici. J'espère que tu as bien aimé que j'ai fait un effort de parler du Canadien de louer, quoi. Parce que, bon, c'est vrai qu'il y a des Canadiens français à louer Et on parle pas beaucoup d'eux. Et bon, ce sont des minorités vraiment vulnérabilisées par les gouvernements locaux. Et bon, moi j'espère que les choses sont mieux pour toi au futur. Je te souhaite le meilleur. Et merci d'être ici. Hmm. Bauschwad. I don't know. I've never interacted with the guy. I have like I watched one of his stream once, and he was telling like a kid what to do if his parents put prager you in the classroom, and I was like, are you giving like politics for kids? Maybe that's a good thing, you know, but I'm not sure. I know he's very good at what he does. He's at least better at what he does than I am at what I try to do. He's gotten like quite big and quite influential with political streams, and yeah, you know, I think if we ever had a conversation, we'd probably agree more than the things we disagree. But I don't like the debate bro Twitch scene. I think a lot of people that turn politics into circus and drama, mm, you know, they make things worse for the way people engage with media. I think that it's a form of depoliticization when you consume media like that. I feel it makes you a less conscious person because you are treating very real problems and very real issues as entertainment. Um, and if it's not backed by action, it can actually be like worse for your viewers because you're teaching them that being political is more about having the right ideas and not about doing the right things. And you know that's what killed our socialist projects in the 20th century. Like we don't want to repeat that. So yeah, I will have my differences with the debate bros, but I understand they're a type of content for a type of person, and maybe there's value there that I don't find, but certainly other people do. I will just tell you that politics is not an online thing. Politics is outside. Politics is when you solve problems. The first political thought in the world was when two monkeys found a way to solve their differences without killing each other thousands of years ago, right? When the Homo sapiens first discovered the peaceful resolution of conflict. And most of what you should do is to do more action than education, because if you're consuming more news than you're acting, you will feel very powerless, and that will be very disappointing. You know, you will learn to consume media as a sort of panic and alarmism, and that will hurt you in the long run. You know, it will make you feel very disempowered. Thank you from your work. I'm from Quebec and I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching it. Please share the videos. Bonsoir Andrew. Yeah, bonsoir. Have you played any Kirby games? Yeah, one of my favorite video games is like Kirby Magic Mirror. It's one of the first video games I played. I've never collected like everything, but I've gotten very close. um, I'd be skeptical that Wexit is a materialistic or self-interest. Very few know the real economic consequences of separation instead of pushing bikes of American culture war. Culture war conservative? Yeah, I can kind of see that. Thank you for the answer. E-based. Bassé. Ouais, j'ai observé qu'il y a beaucoup de personnes à la France qui commencent à dire bassé, mais moi je pense que c'est un anglicisme. Je ne veux pas l'adapter du tout. I think your work comes off as very neutral, in my honest opinion. Oh, really? I thought my criticism of Dostoevsky as like a fascist, and the fact that I always say that neoliberalism is bad just kind of like leans a certain way. You seem left-wing to me, but I think you're alright. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm something of a British Columbian myself, and the American-style culture promoted by Wexiters is definitely at odds with Canadian liberalism. Yeah, Canadian liberalism and American liberalism are very different. I much prefer Canadian liberalism because it's actually based in principles, and I think American liberalism is more risk management strategy to get concessions from conservatives. So yeah. Hey, good for you, the math degree. Thank you. I am very happy as a mathematician. Seriously, these episodes were a great supplement to my undergrad in political science here in Canada. Amazing work. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, suddenly the Gorgura cameo makes. Yeah. What do you think of Dylan Burns? Dylan Burns is my friend. I said that streamers sometimes divorce real world politics from actual politics. Dylan doesn't do that. Dylan actually is like on the ground in Ukraine right now, helping people, documenting things. He's trying to become more of a journalist than a streamer, from what I observe. And I think I think that should be the natural progression of the Twitch streamer. I think you should reach a point where you say enough debates. I only want to have debates with people I'm meaningfully organizing with, because otherwise this is kind of like a bourgeois sport where all I'm doing is just entertaining my own intellect for the sake of putting someone else down. But in reality, what I really want to do is to effect change in the world and make my politics be effective. You're a socialist? Yes. Now we just repeat Bausch's mindlessly as a joke. You even have a sound react for it. Oh, really? That's cute. I can appreciate when someone, takes their jokes in. Democratic socialism and socialism are kind of different, or social democrat rather. I think there's a different. Yeah, they're all very different ideologies. Yeah. She's been very openly left leaning for a while. Yes. Like Finland and Cuba are pretty damn different kind of. Yeah. The Nordic model is very special. It's I want to make a video on Olof Palme. The great difficulties of making a video on Olof Palme is that a lot of the sources are in Swedish, and I don't speak Swedish. But I got a couple of books I can read with a dictionary. So yeah. Bauschbad is an inside joke. I watch him and learn from him, just like how much I love and learn from the channel. I see. I'm glad you're finding things of value. Wait, y'all are social. Yes, it's working. Depends on what you see as such. Dylan Burns is so cool. He's a beast. Yeah, I have a lot of love and respect for him. If he ever watches this VOD, Dylan, thank you for everything you do. I think you'll be remembered as one of the better streamers to come out of the scene for all your contributions. When did you realize you're a socialist? I've actually been involved in leftist politics all my life, and I think that might make me a bit different from people here, because I, in Mexico, started getting involved in politics with the anti-Peña Nieto protests. So these were basically protests against the rising price of oil, because Mexico, in order to fuel neoliberal reforms, what they did was that they started to use the national oil company as a tool to gather money for subsidies. Everywhere where the state was losing money, because they were doing neoliberal reform, which means selling state companies, they would raise the price of oil to keep the budget stable. And I protested against that since I was 16. When I was 14, I was involved with the Partido de la Revolución Democrática, the PRD, which was AMLO's previous party. And I protested against the steal of his election in 2014. So, ever since I'm 16, if not earlier, I have been involved in leftist politics. But when I say that, I don't mean reading, but actually acting on the ground and interacting with people and things like that. I only came to YouTube and the online scene and more the political theory aspect as an adult. So yeah, I've always been active in this kind of politics. I don't know any other kind of politics. I only very recently started reading conservative political theory. I find it very interesting. But I would be more identified with the Enlightenment tradition. So the French revolutionaries, the Jacobins, the Black Haitians, the Latin American independentists, those kinds of people. And more towards the present, I would say I have a lot in common with AMLO still, with Mélenchon in France, with the the New Zealand Prime Minister, the woman that recently retired. Um, these are politicians that I think are doing things in the right direction. With Lula in Brazil as well. Uh, so yeah, that's just kind of like the space I exist in. So yeah. So I've always been active in that. In I guess for me it wasn't a realization. It was just kind of something that was there, and it has informed my perspective. And I've read a lot of conservative theory ever since. And I've also read liberal theorists as well. I think I've read more liberal theorists than socialists, to be honest. But ultimately, I am more convinced by socialism, and I think in the 21st century, we are seeing a lot of progress in the movement, and I look forward to seeing more. Um, when it comes to conservatism, I'm not quite convinced by conservatism. I think conservatism, I'm making a video about this later, but it's fundamentally about induction, about philosophical induction. And philosophical induction is what you do when you base your knowledge from things that you already know, and you evolve in your knowledge only ever so slowly. Uh, so you are inherently like skeptical of reason, and you're skeptical of reason to the point that you are willing to only change what you must to protect as much of what you can from the things that you already have. And I don't think that's a good way to run a society. I don't think that's a good way to run a family either. I don't think that's a good way to run any kind of relationship, right? Like, you don't want to hold on to things. You want to constantly criticize yourself and constantly improve. So, you know, that has always been my gripe with conservatism, but I respect um, a lot of conservative thinkers, mainly like black conservatives. Not like the Thomas Sowells of the world, those guys I dislike heavily and deeply. More like 19th century black American conservatives. Those are people I can kind of see um, why their worldview was the way it was, and I'll make a video about that eventually because I think it's important to share. Uh, Research-wise, was part 3 the hardest to make? Yes, definitely, yeah. I try to listen to any YouTubers with a grain of salt all the whole time, but I feel kind of disarmed at just how much often I agree with Dylan. Well, Dylan is very smart, yeah. I think, he's become like intimately familiar with the issues he talks about, so that's great. Would you make videos about math or political theory? Yeah, of course. I have a video on the Gini coefficient, and Jordan Peterson again. Hate that guy, but yeah, I have a video discussing that. It's a draft. I don't know how I want to present it just yet, but yeah. Mm-hmm. I like left policies, but I like evaluate them based on results. Yeah. That's the key of the Enlightenment tradition, by the way. You want to make the Enlightenment, so that's liberals and socialists. What we fundamentally believe is in scientific governance. And that doesn't mean government by scientists, which is, something that some liberals that eventually became like dictators and some socialists that eventually became dictators kind of applied. Scientific governance means the scientific method in government, so trial and error. If you see that something doesn't work, you stop. If you see that something is like perhaps worth trying, you do it, but if it doesn't work, then you stop. And you work on that basis, right? On reason, on evidence. And that's the Enlightenment tradition with which I identify. The anti-Enlightenment, so the conservatives, it's more like, the the knowledge that we have today cost us a lot of blood and a lot of sacrifice. So we shouldn't change things unless we're really, really sure that it's absolutely necessary to change things. So yeah. Hey, love your content from Montreal. Thank you. What type of progress have you seen? The 40-hour work week. Let's say that one. Do you have any thoughts on Martin Gurry's ideas about the rise of online nihilist populism? I don't know who that is, but just of the name, I think, yeah, the thing is that the internet depoliticizes a lot of people instead of politicizing them. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I mean that a lot of people treat politics as entertainment, right? I think the night show hosts and the streamers who scream at each other, they're all part of a cycle of looking at politics the way people look at sports. And I often worry that being part of this ecosystem in some way, I am contributing to people who know a lot of information, but they don't know what to do with it. So I make a point to include in all of my videos at least one policy prescription or one idea of things you can like believe and like and advocate for. But yeah, it's a big issue that when politics becomes entertainment and when you start using political knowledge not as like a motivator for action, but like you're collecting the politics facts the same way some people collect like Pokemon cards, for example, or baseball cards, then it stops being about acting, about affecting change, and it starts becoming like a type of consumption, you know, like a consumeristic habit. And I don't like that. And I hope to be a counter effect to that, but you know, we're still YouTubers. Primarily, we're still entertainers. And if we are going to affect change in the world, what we really need to do is like go outside. Because the world is outside. We're here, but the world is outside. And you know, you can only affect change by getting involved with the community that you actually have and starting small. I think a lot of the reason why a lot of people in this like internet politics scene feel so powerless is because they're used to consuming the news of people who treat, you know, who are doing very big politics, you know, like national politics. And when you see national politics, what you're often seeing is the result of careers, you know, of entire political careers, of people who have been working for decades, of people who have dedicated their lives to solve very complicated problems. And you see their decisions, and sometimes you like them, and sometimes you dislike them. But ultimately, what you see is that you will feel powerless to change them, because it's kind of like trying to grapple the lever from someone who's been holding it for years. And, you know, when a country makes a decision, like when Russia invaded Ukraine, a lot of people felt powerless because they couldn't do anything about that, you know, they could just like silently watch. And they feel powerless, they feel impotent because there's nothing they can do in the moment to stop it, right? But what you can do is have like a realistic understanding of your size as a human being, have a realistic understanding of where your community is and where it can go, and do your best to get involved in a way that's both efficacious and productive for the things that you yourself want to achieve. So yeah. Why do you dislike Thomas Sowell? I don't think he's a good economist. I think, for example, his theory on colonization being good because colonization leads to development ignores the many ways in which the development of colonization typically creates infrastructure for extractive situations. So if you look at a lot of dictatorships in Africa, for example, you will see that there's a highway that connects to the port and that connects to the house of the dictator and that connects to the resources. And that's a result of colonization, because typically what you did when you were a colonizer is that you created infrastructure not for the benefit of the people, but for the benefit of, you know, your extractive economy. And that's something that Thomas Sowell ignores, or at least he, I don't know if willingly, but he is very likely to just say that, you know, conservative institutions are good in ways that we don't really appreciate. And oftentimes, whenever I've read his books, it usually is just some version of, you know, the bad thing is actually a good thing if you really squint your eyes, you know. so yeah, I've never enjoyed a lot of his writing. So yeah. Left with their evil. A lot of economic policies have fallen flat, unfortunately. No, I disagree. Like, leftist economists predicted the 2008 financial crisis. How did you start getting involved in politics? I already said this earlier, but like, my parents were involved in like the PRD, not as like members, but as supporters. Then I was a supporter. Then I became active on my own within the PRD, and then eventually things just got better and better. When I went out to like do things on my own, I used to be very left wing and kind of centered myself too out of seeing far leftists from too close, but I'm still definitely a social democrat. Yeah. Salut, j'adorais ta série. Est-ce que tu es déjà allé au Québec? Non, je suis jamais allé au Québec. J'aimerais bien visiter. Je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui aimeraient bien que je visite. Quand même j'ai des amis à Québec, il y a des personnes à mon serveur de Discord qui m'ont dit que si je veux y aller à visiter, ils vont m'apporter à des restos de poutine, quoi. Et moi, j'ai vraiment hâte. Mais c'est bien cher, quoi, parce que c'est un vol du Mexique à le Canada, et ça, ce n'est pas n'importe quoi. Bon... je pense qu'au futur, quand la chaîne grandit plus, je pourrais faire un visite au Québec, peut-être par la célébration d'un million de souscripteurs, quoi. Ouais, pour retourner à mes origines. Mais jusqu'à maintenant, ça sera un peu dur. Mais j'ai bien hâte, j'aimerais vous visiter, j'aimerais vous connaître en vrai. Et bon, de parler avec... toutes ces personnes qui sont là. Je veux acheter j'ai oublié le nom de trucs, mais c'est ok, n'importe quoi, j'ai oublié le nom de trucs. Okay, so what I said is that yes, I want to visit Quebec. One day I would love to go. Right now it's difficult because the channel is quite small, but in the future it's definitely something I have planned. I have people with whom I can talk to, like, not be alone when I go. And I know, you know, if I ever make a video saying like, hey guys, I'm in Quebec, a lot of you would like show up and be very nice to me. So yes. Le défi aujourd'hui est lire du français. Pour moi, c'est pas un défi. Je pense que mon défi le plus grand est le plus réel en singulier, parce que, par exemple, quand je dis ils parlent, à cause de l'espagnol, j'ai un peu l'impulse de dire ils parlent lent. Mais non, j'ai travaillé beaucoup à ça, et je dois dire merci beaucoup à ma copine aujourd'hui, parce qu'elle me parle en français beaucoup. Elle est française aussi, et bon... c'est comme ça. That I'm not going to translate into English. That's a little secret for French friends. I'm just hard right now. I'm sick of being told white is wrong or some shit. Yeah, I mean... I don't think it's wrong to be white. But we need to be critical of colonization, and we need to just kind of understand the real effects it had and just be neutral about it. I think nobody really likes to be told that their ancestors or the culture that they have or the things they are accustomed to are maybe not as great Like, I mean, I would know that I'm a vegetarian, right? Uh, it hurts to say goodbye to a lot of these things, but mm, it's part of growing up and having a more complete vision of the world. You don't have to like hate anything, Like, as a vegetarian, I don't hate people who eat meat. My plan is going vegan eventually, so of course I wouldn't do that either. But mm, yeah, it's just a lot of things in the world are imperfect, and it's okay that they're imperfect, right? Like, it doesn't have to mean that imperfect people are bad people. A lot of imperfect people uh, are existing like a spectrum of interpretation where a lot of things are gray. Mm. Do you have any opinions of the potential judicial changes happening in Mexico right now? Yeah, I like them. Uh, Let me tell you what I think. I think that in the United States, they have a big problem right now, which is the politicization of the court. The politicization of the court happened because in the United States, the conservatives noticed that for the kind of ideology that they have, they would be a party that is very remiss to continue having all their ideology as they have it right now, and get popular support, especially as the country becomes more diverse, especially as the country becomes less white, especially as the country becomes less Protestant, all these things. So what they're doing is something called institutional capture, where what you do instead of gaining democratic support is gaining the support of the institutions, and then through the support of the institutions you can institute policies that you yourself like, and that happens everywhere. Like all it's really hard to argue that you can have like a truly impartial court. And the government of Mexico, the Mexicans, what we've noticed is just kind of that we've noticed that this is inevitable. And so if judges are going to have political values, then it's best that they have political values that align with the will of the people, right? And if the United States did what we do, you wouldn't have Clarence Thomas, right? You wouldn't have a Kavanaugh, for example, which are there for life, which are making like all decisions in the spirit of like controlling people, right? And that's not great. And eventually the Americans, if they want to get rid of the politicized Supreme Court, they're going to have to do some reform as well. They don't have to do it our way, but they're going to have to do some reform. Because, we need to acknowledge that it's impossible to have an impartial judge. Judges are human beings, and human beings are prone to bias just like everyone else. And the Supreme Court, by the end of the day, is a political organ, because political, in giving interpretation to a political constitution cannot be in itself an apolitical act. So yeah. Speaking to that, what's your opinion on Tren Maya? I like it. I've never gone on it. I would like to. It's in the south. I don't live in the south. It's an infrastructure investment. I think Mexico is doing the right thing by investing in rail. We should all invest in rail. China right now is beating us in the rail race. They have laid like 8,000 kilometers, and in North America we don't have enough. So, if you want to be China, or if you want to emulate China, we need to start getting rail. Yeah. And just generally investing in infrastructure is a good idea, so I support it. I have some problems with how it was built, because it didn't have as much green regulations as I would have wanted. AMLO wanted to finish it within his tenure, so he accelerated a lot of things. Not enough attention was paid to the protection of the jungle and to the research for archaeological sites on the layovers of the infrastructure. But you know, overall, I have more positive opinions than negative opinions. Acheter du sirop d'érable. Oui, j'ai acheté pour... je vais montrer au Patreon et après je montrerai à toute la chaîne. Mais oui, j'ai acheté. J'ai acheté de vrai sirop d'érable de le Canada. Just googled PRD France and without all I found by sound was a company was Kaiserreich Wiki. No, I'm talking about Mexico. Yeah, that's why I try to be as reasonable as possible because I could be wrong and don't want to hurt the wrong peeps. Yeah. If you ever go to Quebec City, would recommend trying to time it during the New France Festival. Would be fitting considering this video series. Yeah. I also want to go to the Saint Jean Baptiste party. Whenever that happens, I forget. But it would be very nice. Yes. Do you see any use comparing Indigenous Quebecois and Western calls for autonomy? Yes. I think you should realize that you have a lot more in common than you have in difference. But it's really up to you to figure out the details, right? Because not two marginalized identities are the same. And for example, in the United States, you'll see a lot of friction between Jewish people and Black Americans, who are two marginalized identities, but you know, they have had inter-community infighting because they've not successfully managed their differences to form a common front in a lot of issues that pertain them. So yeah. Cool, well, hablas muy bien francés. Ok, muchas gracias. También hablo español, si alguien aquí habla español. I had some very close communist friends who kind of ended up convincing me would they have the mean to they totally could be as bloody as previous communist regimes. Yeah, see, I'll tell you a big problem of communism, especially the state socialism of the 20th century, is that state socialism legitimated itself. So that's the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc and these countries, right? They legitimize themselves in a scientific understanding of the world according to an economic model, and the Marxist study of economics. And the thing is that for a Marxist, Marxism is a scientific discipline. And if you are governing or doing things under the name of a scientific discipline, you don't really ask the layman, you know, like the person on their foot on the street, what to do, what's the right choice, right? So in liberal democracies, what you do is that you have this idea of the consent of the government, where, you know, even the person who is the least educated gets a vote. And that vote is equal to the person who's the most educated. But Marxists say, like, nah, fuck that, bro. We get our legitimacy from science. And in the same way, you don't ask, like, a flat earther to make calculations about the orbit of the moon. Why are you going to know people who don't know anything about politics to, like, you know, execute political ideas, right? And that's how the state socialist Europeans conducted their governments. And here's the thing, right? The problem was that everyone was treated like an idiot. And when you treat everyone like an idiot and you never let them, you know, you basically become a nanny state telling them that they're not smart enough to govern themselves, you know, people don't like that. They feel like they're being governed by some idea that's separate and independent from them. And that's the biggest problem, I think, of state socialism and the 20th century Marxism, that we made the mistake of justifying ourselves in the science and never bothering to justify why we were doing that to people. So in the 21st century, what we need to do is try to approach people more. I think liberal democracy is like an institution we can use to argue for our ideas. And if we can't argue for our ideas in a way that's efficacious, like, we're just going to repeat the same mistakes. So let's not do that. Let's not do that again. because these countries, the Eastern Bloc countries, were very bad countries to live in. And I don't think that if you're a communist that likes doing like media analysis and criticizing cartoons and looking at TV series and Netflix series and saying like, oh, this is how I interpret Foucault in this particular piece of art. Like, if you lived in any of these state socialist societies, you wouldn't be able to watch these media to begin with, right? So yeah, you wouldn't be able to produce your critiques of media either without heavy vetting. It's something that I think a Chinese official from the Communist Party of China said once, which is that, we have Kung Fu and we have pandas, but we couldn't make Kung Fu Panda. So, we want to improve from that. We want to develop socialism into something better. And we want to do the Enlightenment tradition thing of like actually working towards something that is reasonable and that convinces people and things like that. So yeah. Man, that Nazis are gonna hate me after hearing about working with institutions to push. Look, if you want to be a judge in Canada, you need to do political donations. Oh, really? That's so interesting. I wonder why. Looks to the American court, yeah. Like, they were way too quick at dehumanizing anyone they consider bourgeois in the slightest way, including people who grown poor and as fuck and work their ass into wealth. Yeah. I mean, you do have to have empathy for, like, a working class person that made it out and has, like, survivor's conscience, right? So, yeah. It's complicated, right? Like, we need to come at them from a place of empathy. Join me, my pro-train and pro-transit comrades. We will build a glorious and hopefully economically and environmentally stable cross-NAFTA train network. That'd be very wonderful. I'd love that. June 24 is Saint-Jean. Ah, okay. So it happened very recently, yeah. Can you say Alabama Beach Mouse? Chicks. I can't, sorry. Mexico's got a long history of land reform. Have you got any thoughts on the prospects of a push or land redistribution or reform in the future? It depends. Land reform has typically been a concession we made to agricultural workers so that they would own the land that they were working on. There's this Mexican rallying cry from the Mexican Revolution, which is La tierra es de quien la trabaja, and that means land belongs to whoever develops it. And developing this sense meant, like, if you're a farmer and you work the land, like, you have to own the land. Like, it's you who's using it, it's you who's, like, developing it, it's you who is employing it, and not some other guy, who just has, like, a piece of paper that says this is my land and I just hire people to, like, work it and things. So yeah, I mean, historically our land reform has mostly been tied to agricultural production, and I don't know if we've ever done it in urban settings. It would be very ambitious. I don't think Morena, the current government, is really up for something like that. But we'll see. Because land reform is going to be one of the 21st century challenges, housing. The affordability of housing, things like that. They are feeble scholar kings. We have to reform ASAP. Okay. Thank you for sharing that opinion. I think I remain in the liberal space, which is largely alarmed by the changes, but I feel I understand the rationale behind them better now. Yes, like, I don't want you to copy my values, but if you're analyzing, like, state socialism, one thing you need to understand is that these were people who were very paranoid about being overthrown by more powerful countries. And they also believed they were doing science, they were doing scientific governance from a place of expertise. And generally, I won't say many positive things about the British government, but I think the British invented something really important with the two-party system, which is that whether you as a party are like effective or not, whether you actually care about the people or not, the opposition party has a permanent incentive to be well connected to the desires of the people on the ground. Power will always separate the person that has it from the person that doesn't. Because being in government gives you access to information, it gives you access to resources, and it gives you access to tools that the average person will never have. And if those things eventually make you so detached from the average person that you no longer connect with their interests or connect with their views, then, it probably would be better in the interest of democracy that someone else came around and ruled, and took that power away from you, because it makes you, it divorces you from the people you are ruling. And if you believe that your mandate comes from science, it comes from God, or it comes from some other legitimizing power that is in the people, maybe that's fine. But if you believe that, the consent of the governed is important, then yes, you do need something like a liberal democracy, or something like a tool that tells you what people are actually feeling, I think in Cuba, they have a system that more or less attempts to, get a measure of what people feel, because they have different parties and they have a parliament and things like that. But, it's all... I wouldn't know if the Cubans would think that it's the most democratic system on earth, right? It listens to change. Cuba is the only communist country that has made the changes in LGBT issues, for example, and its parliament was open to that. And they also have systems that are able to do that, create organization for people to communicate their things to the authorities. But even so, I think there's no country that does this well today, or that does it as good as they could. So yeah. I'm from the States. Okay, hello American. 20% of my viewers are from the US, yeah. Where is the incentive for that development, for that progress? I don't think I understand the question. Maybe it's because we've moved very slow answering it. I'm sorry. I think Ravignon will enjoy the Réseau Express Métropolitain over here. I would. I like public transportation. The world is not divided to oppressors and oppressed. That's a shallow, childish, and dangerous dichotomic way of thinking that is a very prominent idea in the North American politics. What are you talking about? Communism is not technocracy. Oh no, it is. It is. Communism, in theory, is a scientific idea of how government should be. It has a theory of history, it has a theory of economics, and it believes in, well, at least the Marxist-Leninists, right? They believe in this idea of the dictatorship of the proletariat, where the most class-conscious workers lead a state where they create the order of the day for everyone. And what we mean by the most class-conscious workers are the members of the party that are most educated in communism. So that would be the people who are most educated in economics or most educated in their fields. And you'll see that in the Soviet Union too, right? There was a lot of pressure to succeed at the Olympics, at science, to beat the Americans to space, things like that. So there very much was a culture of merit and discipline and achievements with a scientific view. But yeah, they got their
legitimacy from this idea of science and um, not from popular consent, intersectionality. Rather, if you think a leader is detached from reality, that they can relate to the lowest person in society, it's called the Second Amendment. We're just different people. No, I don't think the Second Amendment works. Like, do you really think you're going to defeat the US military? I don't think so. In theory. Well, I say in theory, but liberals in theory also think they create a just society. And where is your just society? You know? Like, point me to the just liberal society. Yeah, that's a key difference between, well, not a key difference, but a commonality between liberalism and socialism, which is that both aspire to ideals that are probably unachievable, right? Like communism is probably unachievable. But to put it in like French Revolution terms, the Republic of Virtue is probably also unachievable, you know, like the just society where everyone has like everything they want and has access to the same rights and the same privileges and things like that. Like we've been doing liberalism for 220 years, maybe more. And you know, can you really say there's a place in the world where everyone has the same opportunities and the same access to the same rights? Like most art in the world today is about oppression, right? Like about the experience of not having that. And yeah, I mean, I guess some places are further down a path to progress than others, like Canada, but you know, that's not complete justice, that's progress towards an idea of complete justice. And in socialism, we have the same problem, right? Like communism is probably unachievable, but we kind of want to work towards it. Towards what was the formal definition? Oh yeah, a classless, moneyless society where the workers own the means of production. Yeah, that's so funny too because a lot of people think that communism means like massive state, but the core objective of communism is to create a stateless society. So yeah. Uh-huh. You have no idea, bro. We lost in Afghanistan. Who lost in Afghanistan? Like a lot of people have lost in Afghanistan. I'd love to talk to you about this. Maybe you can join my Discord. It's in the description of this video. Basic rights are way, way, way more important than full economic equality. See, that's the liberal position. You think that liberals generally believe in a balance of two things, which is the maximization of utility. So the government should do things that are good, right? Like the government should be there to help and do like some basic set of responsibilities that make life as effective for everyone, like as much as they can. And they temperate the maximization of utility with the idea of individual rights. So what does this mean? It means that the government should do things to help people, but the government at the same time should never do things that conflict with the rights of individuals. So yeah, for example, if you want to make a community safer as like a police person, but you have to arrest like 10 innocent people to do it, like let's say it's a bargain with the devil, a liberal would say no because these people have like a right to be free, and I don't think we should violate that right to be free. And socialists agree, you know. The difference is that socialists also consider the maximization of utility, the rights of individuals, and one final thing which is called the rights of groups, the rights of classes. And, you know, in the United States, for example, you can't argue for something like affirmative action from a wholly liberal perspective. And I think the Supreme Court, when they struck down affirmative action, from a liberal point of view, they were completely right, you know, because you can't deny access to education to an individual because of preferential admissions by the ideas of the college. But a socialist would say that, yeah, you know, there's a good reason to do affirmative action because there's been hundreds of years through which a society, you know, the society we built oppressed the class, and you can't put a man at the beginning of a race after he's been chained for hundreds of years and then tell him to catch up with the people who have been running, you know, for those hundreds of years. So yeah, socialism cares about the rights of groups as much as it cares about the rights of individuals, as much as it cares about the maximization of utility. Liberals only care about the maximization of utility and the rights of individuals. So in that sense, that's where the difference comes. And you know, as a liberal, you might have good reasons to not care about the rights of groups. Like, what's a group, right? Like, how do you define it? An individual, you can define. A group? But, you know, I believe there are many groups which are like politically legitimate and that we can formally define. And yeah, that's my outlook. Well put, although I'm a bit skeptical about the idea of LGBT rights being a bellwether social attentiveness of a government. Yeah, sure, I agree. Thailand has recently done so and remains painfully unequal and illiberal. Yeah, good point. I think my point was not that it made, you know, LGBT rights is not like the end-all be-all of social progressivism, but it is a measure of like whether a government is like listening to its people to some degree. I agree with your justice theory. Working towards what we as a society believe will make life better for as many as possible is worth it, even if we can never reach the ideal. Bro, I can find you on Discord. It's just, let me drop it in the chat for you. Discord.gg Ravignon. Oh wait, I'm on the I'm on the wrong account. Okay, so this is like my live stream account with crowd. Okay, let me send the thing. There was once a touring museum called the Canadian Discovery Train. It's a mildly interesting topic. Oh, that's nice. Rights of classes that people do not identify with those classes. Well, classes exist, regardless. At that point, going when it comes to recognizing groups that leads ethnic tension, which I like to avoid. Well, it's not only ethnic groups. It's like there are many ways. There are many groups. What is the end goal of the social progress? Human happiness. Yeah. Just wanted to drop by and tell you how much I love your stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Communism is achievable with human tactics. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your donation. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. The people themselves define their own groups. You can't patronize people. It's like someone deciding what's your sexual orientation. Yeah, no, but think about it as like Quebec, right? Would you say that there is no Quebec national identity? Like they're not a coherent group? Like you could say, oh, I'm an individual, I'm enlightened, I define my own groups. But you can't define yourself out of a group that already exists and with your identity already intersects. Like, do you think that in the United States, a black person could no longer identify as black and be treated like a white person? Your identity is also in the eyes of the people who assign it to you. Isn't it presumable or straight until further realized? I don't know. I try not to do that. You know, but you know, maybe it's because I am bisexual and I would really like to believe I have more chances than I actually do. But yeah, I don't typically assume people's sexuality. Like, I guess if they're married and if they have kids and if they have a couple, like maybe that's a good indicator that someone's straight. But you know, maybe they're a beard. You know, in the gay community, what a beard is? It's like when when you're gay, but you have you want to pretend you're straight, so you get a partner, like a straight partner, and sometimes people marry their beards and they live with their beards. So yeah, so just do whatever makes you happy. Yeah, I mean, why do we do politics, right? To be happy. We want to be happier versions and more content versions of our own lives. If your politics are motivated by revenge or by hatred or something like that, like, you know, you should probably reconsider your values. If what drives you is anger and resentment towards others and not a dream to make the world a better place than it is. I think that's why I'm aligned with the Enlightenment tradition and not with conservatism. Because I look at human beings from a place of optimism and from a place of all the good things we could be doing instead of a deep-seated fear of losing what we have in the past. You know, I think we should be looking up, not looking down. Oh, of course you're bi. If you want to Portland, I'd love to have a beer with. Yeah, I'll consider it. And now I have a contact in Portland. Thank you. If we do politics to be happy, then why do we get so angry over it? I don't. Look at me, I'm very happy. But I guess some people engage it as something to get angry at, and getting angry at something is also a form of entertainment. Moses Hess? I don't know who that is. I'm unfamiliar, sorry. I don't think I can give you like yeah, like a holistic view of what that guy thinks. Let me Google him. Oh, okay, so he's a communist Zionist. I am not familiar with Moses Hess. I'll have to say that with like early Jewish liberal thinkers, I am more familiar with Otto Braun, I think his name was. But yeah, I'm sadly unfamiliar with this person. The world will figure itself out. Do what will keep your soul. Yeah. I mean, be happy. Be happy. Be happy. All of you should want to be happy and not look at politics to be angry. We want to do politics to be happy. You know, if you're just doing politics to be pessimistic about things and maybe prevent collapse instead of like having a plan and you know, doing something positive, then what do you do, right? That's a fundamentally depressive worldview that at least I don't have. For many, politics is a struggle for their survival or being able to express a core part of their identity. That is worth getting upset over, I guess. I completely agree, but fundamentally that is a desire to be happier. Because if you think about it, typically the people who fight for rights will have a prescription of what they actually want, not only what they don't want. So let me think of a group that struggles to express a part of their identity. Like, I'm a trans woman, and we can think, for example, of what do trans women want, right? First of all, we'd like not to get like helicopter jokes and things like that. But we also have like a list of material needs that we do want. Like, we want medication, you know, access to medication. We want to be able to be blood donors, because in some countries we're not allowed to be blood donors. We want to travel everywhere, and in many countries we're not allowed to enter. Yeah, we have like a cadre of prescriptions of things that we actually want, not only things that we want to stop being unhappy about. So yeah, that's just kind of like what I want to invite you to see. Like, you can be angry about things that hurt you, but you also should be enthusiastic about things that you want to be different and good. You're trans? Yes, I'm a trans woman. Like, as I'm talking to you, I have an estrogen patch in my belly that's making me very tired. I could tell you how it feels. Like, it's oh, I still remember how it felt. You know, how I felt before I got it. I felt a lot more physically able. Right now, I feel like uh, a lot of things can influence my day. Kraut and Dev and some of my trans friends changed my mind about trans rights. Oh, I see. Well, for good or for bad? I love that perspective. How does it feel? Oh, okay. So if you're a guy, like when you're a guy, you'll generally feel like your body is like mm, able to function, I want to say, in a way that is not too influenced by how you feel or how you like. Like, I remember that when I was like completely on testosterone, I was like super horny all the time. You know, being horny was just like a constant in my life. Uh, and now that's not as much of a rule. If I'm stressed, or if I had a bad day, or if I had like something mess with my mood for whatever reason, I can't have fun at night. Let's just leave it at that. So I'm a lot more influenced by my emotions in that sense. I'm also what else? Yeah, I'm not horny, bro. Yeah, I'm also uh, you know, if I'm sad, I can't move my body as much. If I feel tired, you know, my body will protest more that I take a rest and sleep. I want to think that's not an effect of the estrogen. That's an effect of the fact that I'm going through a second puberty that's asking me to sleep more. But I do feel a lot more in touch with my body and its signals. And I think that's something I appreciate, because at least when I was living as a man, I don't know if you guys might have like the same experience as me, but it does feel like your mind is one thing and your body is one thing, another, and your body obeys and your mind just does its own thing, right? So yeah, it's that kind of approach. I hope things are going all right for you. I have another friend going through hormone therapy, and it's been a bit of a ride for that. Yeah, yeah, no, like it's not pleasant, but it is. You know, it's you're happier, right? Like, you're a happier version of yourself by the end of the day. So it's really worthwhile. If you are the right person for it, it is really worthwhile. Um, I wouldn't recommend it to a cis person, of course. It wouldn't make you happy, or it would probably make you sad. So yeah. Quebec is shopping like my grandpa. We want independence, but we are waiting for a goatee. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, no, HRT is like an adventure, but it's a good adventure. You know, not every good journey is 100% pleasant. And yeah, there are many things about HRT that are weird. Like, let me tell you that one thing you'll really miss is peeing comfortably. This might be like TMI, right? Like, but maybe you guys might be interested in how like estrogen affects the body of someone who was assigned male at birth. The moment you start taking estrogen, some of the muscles in your dick will dilate, and you'll have less control of your sphincter, and peeing will be more difficult to control. So a lot of trans women have something that we call like the drip, because it stays there, you know. You have to stay in the bathroom like a little bit extra to make sure that, you know, it finishes dropping out. Okay. Probably TMI. So I'll drop the subject. um, when did you realize that I was trans? I kind of always knew. Mm. But I didn't have the language for it. So, uh, I guess, if you want me to tell you like a memory that really resonated with me, it was watching the second Scooby-Doo live action movie, if you guys are like young enough to remember those. And there's a scene in the second live action where Shaggy and Scooby go to like a basement, and in the basement there's a fridge, and in the fridge there's potions. And when they drank the potions, they were like, oh, okay, and they were like tasty potions, but the potions transformed their bodies. And Shaggy's body was transformed into a woman's body. And when I was 8 years old, that triggered my brain, and I was like, wait, I have like I have an expression. This is something you can do? This is something that can happen? Oh my god. And yeah, I guess I just kind of realized that was a possibility for me. And then I came back to it later when I was going through puberty. I started watching like videos of like gender transitions, and I was like, this is actually interesting. But then I was kind of wondering like, do I want to go through this? And because of my family, I didn't think I could. Actually, I still think, it's probably not a subject I want to bring up with them just now. But yeah. Lost a friend to suicide. It's what got me to change my opinion. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm sorry about your friend. I'm sure they'd be very happy to know that you've grown to become a person who would be better able to support someone as them. Yeah. It happens. My grandfather went through wars during the AIDS crisis. Yeah. Take care and look forward to the next upload. Thank you. That's what it was. Yeah, like Scooby-Doo made me trans. Fucking pathetic story, I know. Nah, in reality, I always knew. I just didn't have the language for it. Like, even before Scooby-Doo, in Mexico, we had like a couple of anime in Open TV. One of them was Ranma and a Half. And yeah, in that anime, the trope is that there's this kid that gets wet with ice water, and that turns him into like a woman, and he can turn back into a man by getting wet with warm water. And yeah, I mean, he's cursed. That's why that happens. And yeah, when I was like 4 years old or 5 years old, I was like fascinated by that idea. And of course, not my siblings weren't. They were watching like the same TV series, and they just found it like stupid or funny, because in the early 2000s, like gender swapping was treated as like a comedy prompt, and it still is, and I do think it's funny. The idea of having this very absurd predicament of being the wrong gender, but it's still like something that informs my perspective. Let's just say that to me it was less funny and more like it awakened suspicious feelings. So yeah, they were always there. I guess I just didn't know what to call them. Then the internet became more accepting of trans people at some point, and I was like, yeah, okay, now I just kind of understood. I saw people like ContraPoint and other trans creators start to get big. I never researched the HRT too much. I just got into it as soon as I decided it was like the right thing for me, and that was that. So yeah, Scooby-Doo was the greatest awakening of the modern age. Yeah, no, it was crazy. No, that's iconic. Yeah. Yeah, Scooby-Doo made me trans. Holy shit. I can't believe that. Someone needs to like sue the studio for all the harm they're doing to people. J.K. Rowling, post about Scooby-Doo. That should be your target. Like you're here complaining about the Olympics when the Scooby-Doo live actions are running amok. Yeah, no. Dumb shit, honestly. Dumb shit. But in general, I think most trans people only want to have some political interests secured in terms of like our access to medication and things like that, and after that we just mostly want to live our lives. Like yeah, we trans people are probably the most peaceful and uninterested group of people you will ever find online or in your life, basically, because a lot of trans people are like so desperate for acceptance, because a lot of what our struggle is coded around acceptance, that we are not going to give you problems in like any way. So yeah, for me it is a state issue. Yeah, I mean, should human rights be up to the states? I don't think so, but yeah, I guess it does depend on the state, because at least in the case of the US, the states are very different. They have very different cultures when it comes to things like gun ownership and things like healthcare and stuff like that. What do you think about Martinique changing their flag? You don't have a Quebec emoji anymore. Ah, I see. I think it's fine. I support it. I think, the people of Martinique have the right to have whatever flag they want. I think Quebec should have its own flag. There used to be a time where we had only the Great Britain emoji, and now we have an England, a Scotland, and a Wales emoji. And that's a good thing. I think we should have like a Quebec emoji next. Ravelot can be violent and angry, even acquaintances, when it comes to politics, but I hope I'm wrong. Yeah. No, you're right. Like, trans people are not really accepted as a general rule of thumb. Like, I think it's a lot more likely that you will find people who won't understand the predicament in whole, then people who are hateful, and then people who are accepting it, like in that numerical order. And it's a tough situation, it's a tough hand to be dealt, but overall I think once people understand that we just have this very stupid predicament and that we don't really have like any interest besides that, it's quite simple. We just want to live our lives, and that's it. We need Ontario and Manitoba emoji so more people can make fun of their flag. Yo, Ontario is such a simp. They didn't even change the red ensign. They just kept it and gave it a different shield. Like, wow. Yeah, I am sad about the flag of Ontario. They just said like, I'm gonna simp for the Dominion age until the day that I'm dissolved as a province. So yeah, mate, don't forget the Discord. Didn't I put the Discord? I'm posting it right now. It's in the description as well. There you go. Join the Discord. Become a Patreon, give me money. Help me make more videos. Yes. Okay. Drews uses the emoji of the flag of Sage. What does that have to do with anything? What do you mean? I think we're just commenting on flags because Quebec lost its flag, in the emoji list. They used to use another flag. But yeah, Ugh, it's getting late. You know what, guys? I've been streaming for 2 hours. It was a lovely time. I'm happy that I got to do this, that this stream happened, that, you know, that the project is finally over. We did a stage of my life is also over. And talking about myself and getting to know my viewers and all of this is also really valuable to me. I'm very happy this is how we're ending this day. And yeah, thank you all for participating in this thing. I click on the invite and then it rebuffers? What? That's so weird. Maybe put it on your Discord. Yeah, put it on your Discord. DM it to one of your friends and that should give you like a Discord invite. And then you should be able to enter. Yes. Best flag in your opinion? I like the Mexican flag the best for the aesthetics. Aside the Mexican flag, I would have to say I'm browsing them in my mind right now. Lots of the flags are tricolors, so I'd say the Mexican one is my favorite tricolor. South Africa's. Yeah, South Africa's. Get yourself some rest and take care. Thank you, yeah. No, thank you all. Thank you all for making this series possible. Thank you all for all the support over the years. I hope you stay for what's next. In the future, I'll try to create more things for you. I'll try to run my channel in a more democratic way. And I'll try to, just keep doing what I'm doing, keep being a better version of myself, and taking you along in this journey, in the journey of this channel as I continue my enterprises and my projects. You have been the cherry on top for my birthday week. Thank you. That's really humbling to hear. Good night. Good night. Oh, Estonia. Is your Discord linked to Crowd? Crowd is in my Discord, but I don't know if Crowd is like linked to the Discord. Yeah. I don't think I understand the question. I like flags with colors that stands out. Oh my god, against the guideline. All the Maltese flag rocks. Is it how it's pronounced? Maltese. Yeah. Definitely not an unbiased opinion there from the Knights. Democratic way, not in my communism. Communism is democratic. Yeah, you just have a different definition of democracy, libtard. Yes. Your videos on Ukraine and Palestine were great. Thank you. I will make a new video soon. I'm just gonna take a brief vacation from the channel after finishing such a great project. Oh my god. And after that I will I will see what I do. I have a lot of things to look forward to. And really, there's a stage of my life that's beginning right now that I'm really happy about. At the same time that, my channel is becoming free of this project. And I don't mean that in like an ungrateful way. I mean it in the sense that, this thing that took years to be done is finally done. I now have the longest Pole and Ball series that exists, and it's crazy that all of this happened, and I'm incredibly grateful to you all for being a part of it. I don't think I can thank you enough. I have to say that the YouTube channels that influenced me were really small. It's a guy called Jokester94N and Tomato3456. They did Super Mario 64 Machinima. And they inspired me to learn to edit. And they are very small channels compared to mine. They have like 500 and 200 subscribers each, if I remember well. And honestly, I've gotten to a point where I have more of a following than they did, and I feel kind of humbled that I probably have a lot more reach than people who affected me so positively. And I want to be responsible with that. And I hope to be responsible with that and to treat this great opportunity you will have given me with the care and the attention it deserves. So I'll continue trying to do my best. I'll see you all on the next video, and if you want to follow the streaming channel, if you want to view my streams in between my yeah, if you want to view my streams in between the video essays, right? I'll link it in the chat. Here you can see me play like Elden Ring and things like that. There I'll soon be presenting as a trans woman. This VTuber model that you're seeing here might be retired soon for one that's like yeah, more gender affirming, let's say. So yeah, that's my streaming channel. Vive le Québec libre. Vive le Québec libre, indeed. Under whatever definition of liberty you want that to be. And yeah, I give you the Latin American pass. I think you guys you guys like passed the vibe check, and yeah, welcome. I hope you here's my very first donation to you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm grateful for all of you. Yeah, in the future, Angloids be yeah, forever coping that Canada is the only culture in Quebec. Yeah. PI just subscribed. Thank you for subscribing. Yay. Okay. Well, on this positive note of like my deep sense of gratitude to all of you and my good hopes for the future from here onwards, I want to say goodbye to the Quebec series, and I want to say goodbye to all of you. Well, until next time. And yeah, I'll take a brief vacation. I'm just telling you all that I'll take a brief vacation to like make sense of things, put my mind at rest, and move on to what's next. I have to continue moving forward, and there's more things I want to do with the channel, and I have a lot of things planned for the future. And with that, I invite you to be a part of that future, and I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon enough. Check out the community tab. Check out the social media links in the description, and I'll see you all later. On se voit, au revoir. Merci à tous pour être ici, pour donner votre soutien à le projet du Québec à Discourse sur les nations. Le projet est finalement fini et on nous trouve au début d'une nouvelle époque pour la chaîne et pour tout. C'est ce qu'on fait chez moi, chez moi dans cette chaîne. Et bon, merci beaucoup. Je vous approche d'une place d'une gratitude très profonde pour me donner l'opportunité que j'ai aujourd'hui pour faire ce que je fais. Et au futur, j'espère de continuer à vous faire partie de ma vie et mes projets et tout ça. Et voilà. Okay, with nothing else to say, I'll end the stream. Thank you all. Enjoy, thank you, I'll enjoy. Profitant, oui, je vais profiter bien. Goodbye, goodbye. Good night, everyone. Congrats again, Revit. Thank you all for making this possible. Take care. Looking forward for the videos on Brazil. Yeah, the Brazil series is next. Woo! Will be great. Yeah, enjoy yourself and take care. Yeah. Chao, farewell. Chao, hasta luego. Nos vemos. Bye bye. Ya me cuesta el inglés. De ti me despido el español. Hasta luego. Bye bye. Y, well, see ya. Bye bye.